screens, it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood wands of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. The paupers see this mockery and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. It is the height of ignorance to pretend you know what is underneath your feet, unless you personally have dug to the center of the earth and proven it to yourself beyond a doubt. I don't know anyone who has done it. So why have civilizations across time, holy texts across religions, and philosophies around Earth all pointed down and described mysterious existences under the plane we stand on right now? It is worth investigating the multiple threads of ideas that tangle into the ball that is Hollow Earth theory, and that's what we aim to do tonight on Rogue Ways. But before we get started, let me remind you all that Rogue Ways is part of the Eyes Open network. Eyes Open provides a dynamic and multifaceted, echo-free space to think and reflect on the myriad convolutions of the modern world. We also have a network of goods and services, podcasts and shows, all of which support minds that are awake and aware and hearts that are open and true. So come check it out at rogueways.org or in the Eyes Open group on Facebook or MeWe. We would love to connect with you. And now let me introduce our panelists tonight. First up we have Chrissy Perez. Chrissy is an entrepreneurial, stay-at-home, no-nonsense mom who lives in a countryside sort of life with her 3 kids and way too many cats. Chrissy has been interested in Hollow Earth as well as other strangeness like cryptozoology, aliens, metaphysics, and conspiracies from a very early age, and today she has a passion for traveling, gardening, and homesteading. Chrissy, I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Next, we have Austin Beach. He's also joining us for the first time. Austin has a passion for storytelling and does it through audio dramas, which you can check out at Audio Oblivious Productions and at Broken Bard Studios. Austin is happily married, has 2 adult daughters, and lives on his dream property with his family in the woods. Austin is fascinated by the conspiracy world and the paranormal. Austin, welcome to Rogue Ways.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Glad you're here with us. And last but not least, our returning guest, Jeff Marshall, is back. Jeff, aka Darkside, is a musical artist, a badass with a heart of gold, a seer into the underpinnings of the fabric stretched across the veil of reality, an experiencer of high strangeness, a warrior for the light, and a bastion of Zen, peacefulness incarnate. You can find his work at reversetheflow.org. Jeff, welcome back to Rogue.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
So I always want to start out with the pointless question of the episode, and my question to you guys today is, because I'm on a juice fast and I can't eat solid foods right now, what are some of your favorite foods or drinks and why? Anybody can start. Take it away, Austin.
I actually just started drinking Body Armor drinks. Have you guys heard of those?
Body Armor.
Yeah, it's like Gatorade, except it's made from coconut water and has like a whole bunch of good vitamins and minerals in it. I just found out about it recently, and it's like way better for you than Gatorade is. I work outside all the time, so I'm constantly sweating, so that's my new thing.
Oh, that sounds really awesome. It's Body Armor like the brand?
Yes, that's the name of the brand.
So, okay, because there's the Body Armor like clothing, like sports clothing, so I'm just wondering if it's like...
No, that's Under Armour.
Oh, you're right. Okay, my bad. Oh, that sounds delicious, though.
It is. It's all. They got like a crap ton of different flavors, and it actually, like, as opposed to Gatorade, it actually tastes the way fruit is supposed to taste, and it's really good. I highly recommend it.
Yum! That sounds amazing. What do you got, Jeff?
Cool. I got this. It's called Virginia Black, and it's an whiskey.
That's excellent. All right, what do you think, Chrissy?
Oh, girl, tacos. Being in Texas, it's tacos.
Yes. Well, that sounds amazing. I'm like dreaming of any food. I'm like, I just want an avocado or a tomato. And like, right before this, I made a enchilada casserole that was really good. And I'm dreaming of making like a raw pizza or just any pizza or cheese. I could go on for days, but.
Have you seen that video of the guy? It's Coke and a hamburger, but he's got an apple. And he takes the hamburger and he smells it, and then he bites the apple, and then he takes the Coke and he smells it and he drinks the water, and he does that till he starts crying. He wants to eat it so bad, but no, not going to do it.
Well, one of the amazing things that happens to you on these juice cleanses is that your sense of smell increases dramatically. So, like, I'll walk into the produce section to buy stuff for our fresh juices, and, like, I just smell, like, cilantro and bananas, and I'm like, all of this smells so good. And normally I walk through the produce section and smell absolutely nothing. So, there's one way that I'm getting, like, vicarious food satisfaction is just by smelling it.
Yeah, I hear ya. I did a sugar detox it was called a 30-day sugar detox, and it was basically just for the first week it was plain food, just rice, chicken, steak, and spinach. Shit ton of spinach. I'm so sick of spinach. But the first week was very hard because no sugar, and so when you're detoxing, of course, you get headaches and you don't feel very good. So that was really the hard part about it. But after that, the recipes got delicious and the food got better and no more sugar. So,
wow. Yeah, we really don't think about how much sugar it's a drug, and so you withdraw from it when you're detoxing, and we don't realize how much of it we get, because even if you have like a soda or something,
it's
you're just
everywhere.
Yeah, it's like 30 grams. It's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, it really is.
All right.
Come on. Sorry.
No,
you come
go
on juice fast, it's like the first actual meal that you eat is going to be the most amazing thing you ever ate in your life. And it doesn't matter if it's a cracker, it'll be the most amazing food you ever had.
That's true. It's true. The last fast I did, I had an avocado first, and I was like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever eaten. Like, culinary genius, and nature did it all by herself. All right. Well, let's get right into the Hollow Earth theory then. I thought it'd be fun to start with the legends of Agartha. So what do you guys want to say about Agartha?
Yeah, I just imagine it to be a very, I don't know, heavenly might be a good description, but not. I don't know, heavenly, magical, fantastic. These everything bright colors. I really don't know much about it other than what I've been told on different podcasts. But that's how I envision it.
Yeah, I think you're nailing it. I think that's what you're meant to feel like. It's this very heavenly sort of place.
Mm-hmm.
I find it interesting that both Hinduism and Buddhism mention Agartha by name separately.
Yeah. Well, they do have a lot of similarities too, which is something that's hard for me to sort of pull apart, like why they're so similar. But
right.
Maybe it's always possible, right, that maybe they're similar because they're drawing from a common source or a common truth.
Absolutely, that makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you remember what Agartha was described as in any of those religions?
To the best of my memory, it's pretty much the only thing I can remember it saying is that that's where, like, the Dalai Lama receives all of his information from the master of Agartha.
So it's interesting because the very little that I could find on the actual mentions of it in those religions was saying that it's often confused with Shambhala, and they're not the same place, and that Agartha was actually this underground realm, which is how it connects to Hollow Earth, right? Where there's actually like demons and something else that I didn't know the name of. It started with an S, but I also know that demons in those philosophies are not kind of how we experience demons as these negative, really evil entities. So, you know, Chrissy's saying she mentions it like this heavenly place, and I do too. And then I read that, and I was like, demons? Like, that's not very relieving.
That's creepy. Balance. Maybe there's, what is it, good and evil? The balance, the polarity down there as well.
Yeah, and maybe they're both down there.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
It is interesting, too, that image that I threw up to kind of see how, like, which of you guys wanted to participate in this panel has Agartha as this advanced realm where there's all kinds of, you know, technology, it sounds like, and sort of that same heavenly feeling that Chrissy was describing, and, like, you know, advanced sort of bliss, almost like there's a golden age still going on down there.
Except it's also full of Nazis.
Yeah. That's the thing, as we get further into this, like, none of the accounts of the various aspects of Hollow Earth, like, agree with each other at all.
Right.
The damn Nazis, they're everywhere.
They have to ruin everything. Right. So, did you guys find any other references to sort of mythological aspects of an inner Earth or a hollow Earth?
I lost count of how many references there are to an inner or hollow Earth. But what blows my mind isn't that as much as it is real, very often compared to just another realm as opposed to an actual another place. You know, it's almost like a not really a state of mind. It's almost like another dimension. It's like, oh, you can go to this place and everything's different, but you can never return. And there's a lot of weird, high strangeness when it comes to these kinds of places. You know?
Yeah. Well, that's a really good point, because that idea that you can go and then you might not return is also has to do with, we've talked about on other episodes, like alien abductions and Fae experiences, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I never thought about that until you just said that. Like, maybe it really is this other dimension.
And even something you just said, maybe they have a thought that fired off another thought, so on and so forth. You're talking about, right? And when you spell it, I think the Latin root is Daemon, and that I think is simply like an instruction or a worker. I could be totally off, but it's like when you're programming, also they're so that sounds. But what we're talking about when you were talking about the technology, it sounded like, hey, maybe that's what they meant by a daemon or demon.
Ooh. Yeah, and that's closer kind of, I think, to the sort of Hindu and Buddhist ideas that these aren't creatures that are just evil, they're just creatures, and there may be, you know, good or bad in them, but maybe there's something that you can actually get out of them. And there is that concept of a daemon, I think, is how I've heard it pronounced, and I don't actually know, as them being sort of like a guide for you. To help you through life, almost.
Interesting.
What if you could go to Hollow Earth? Would you go? Would any of you go and not come back?
I would totally go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally would. I guess really if you couldn't come back, I guess that would be a major factor in my decision, but I would definitely go if given the opportunity.
If given the opportunity and you knew you could come back, you would go. What about you, Chrissy?
I would go if I could come back, but I would totally go. Yeah, I'd have to come back. I don't know. I like it here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally go.
You guys remember those old Looney Tunes cartoons where the character would like go so fast that just their outline would be
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like first dibs.
Back. No, I'm staying with the weird. That's my home state.
I think that I would go if I could come back, but I also get nervous because there's just this thing, like I think it's a human thing, maybe it's just a me thing, where going underground sounds bad. Like it doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound like a good time. It doesn't sound like a safe time. And I've learned over time to associate it with darkness and evil. I mean, it's literally dark, right? There's no light there, allegedly, except if you take into account the idea that there's this hidden sun inside of the Earth. What do you guys think about that?
I always kind of imagined it as just. I mean, we've always learned that the Earth has a core. Well, maybe the core is just not as big as we've thought that it is. Maybe it's a lot smaller, and because of, I guess, the way gravity possibly works, that it would just hold it there in the center.
Yeah.
And I watched an experiment on YouTube. We've always been told that our core is like iron and nickel. Well, and supposedly that's where we get our electromagnetism, or our electromagnetic field around the Earth. But when you heat up iron, it demagnetizes it. It doesn't stay magnetic when iron is hot. But what it does do is create light.
Wow. Well, I never thought about that or heard about that before.
It's new to me. What if there's not another sun? What if it's the I don't know how to describe it. The North and South Pole are the same, and so the light coming through is the actual sun.
Like there's just like a hollow tube almost.
There's just like a hole. There's a hole.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to describe it, but.
Well, I know that there has been accounts allegedly, and maybe even it was Admiral Byrd, which we could get into now if we wanted to.
Yeah.
That talked about being able to see a light emanating from the Earth, and it was at one of the poles, if not both. I can't remember exactly. You guys heard anything about that?
I have. It was in the diary, the alleged diary. I don't know if it's a secret diary or not, but there's a diary apparently where he describes that, and and I heard about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of it too. But, yeah, I've also heard some of the accounts I've read of Hollow Earth, where people have been to these realms, say that the light seems to come from everywhere. It's almost like the atmosphere itself is light. It's illuminating, their light isn't in a single source. It's just the air itself is actually light,
It's just
but
there.
not bright daylight. It's just you can see, and it's not a dark place based on that. And I read something a while ago, and I could never find it again, but described a way that could actually happen, like with science we know about. There's also something called sonoluminescence, where you hit a particle or something in water with sound so hard that for a moment it generates what looks like starlight, and then the whole thing collapses on itself. But before that, there's a vacuum inside the bubble that's inside the water. Wow. So it's an interesting phenomenon that, with the kind of forces, we have no idea what's happening inside the Earth. Not really. We have a bunch of legend bits. I mean, farthest we've been able to drill is like 8 miles. That's how far our knowledge goes.
And that's not very deep. Honestly, that's barely scratching the surface, literally.
Think about our tallest skyscraper is not a mile high. I don't think we've breached that with our tallest building. So just 2 miles down, they're going to be an entire city with mile-high skyscrapers, and we wouldn't know it.
That's absolutely true. Also, when you're talking about everything being lit from within, it reminds me of a few things, and one of them is that now infamous Baron von Trump's fabulous underground adventures, when he is going underground. So that's a whole book about his inner Earth adventures, basically, and the beings that he meets down there and whatnot. It's a pretty cool book, honestly, whether it's about time traveling Trump's kid or not. But also everything was lit from everywhere when he was down there. And then, speaking of whether or not it's another dimension, when you go astral traveling, often it is reported and people experience that everything has that same sort of quality where it's just lit. There's no direct light source, but you can see everything all the time.
Do any of you guys know anyone that's fluent in astral travel?
Not personally. No.
Me either.
I don't know. I'm confused between astral travel and sleep paralysis. They sound the same to me. They just sound interchangeable to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm able to induce sleep paralysis, and I don't know if I'm really astral traveling or not, but I can imagine myself, and I feel like I am, walking through my house and turning on and flipping light switches, and being able to, I don't know, look at my kid and see what she's doing, but still feeling like I'm asleep. I do that pretty regularly, and it scared me shitless when I was a kid because I didn't know what it was, and I'd have these weird hallucinations. But as an adult, I've learned about it, and I've been practicing, but I don't know if they're the same thing or not. I really don't.
Can you see your own body?
Huh?
Can you see your own body? Can you
no, I've never tried to observe myself, but I've always just kind of felt like I've been able to lift up and move around.
Yeah.
So.
Interesting.
Have you ever gone further than the inside of your house?
One time I went outside and I felt myself floating up into the sky, and I got scared, and so I came back down really hard.
You should probably totally try to go to the Hollow Earth through astral travel. I mean, that'd be the easiest way to find out, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
So hurry up and report back to us.
I'd have to get really stoned, but yeah, I can't do it.
It's like green courage.
Yeah.
I do know a few people who astral travel frequently, and I've never directly asked them about going to the Hollow Earth or anywhere else for that matter. So that's an interesting question that I'd like to do. And I'm like you, Chrissy, where I used to do it a lot when I was young, and now I would have to work really hard to do it, and I haven't had any more experiences as an adult, or at least not many, and not super lucid or intentional or whatnot. So it would be cool to be able to, and I would love it if you would report back on that. And now I want to ask the people I know who do it all the time if they can do it.
I will practice and see what happens. And if I see demons, I'm telling you about the demons too.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll totally try it.
Dude, yeah. Brett will be sad that'll be like a better, no offense, but live eyes open reporting than his. So.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't know if we finished talking about any other like mythological references. Did you guys have any other ideas about that?
I mean, really, if every religion and culture really has, legends of the underworld. I mean, everyone that you can think of.
Yeah,
I mean,
literally all of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be a reason for that.
Right.
Is this the place where the merfolk come up to land and all the unicorns came from and mermaids and
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, because even when you're talking about just mythology, like Greek mythology or Western mythology in general, there's also just tons of stories of the different creatures and whatnot that come from the underworld. So what kind of creatures or entities have you guys looked into when you're looking at Hollow Earth lore?
Of course, you hear. I mean, Admiral Byrd said, he reported that he saw what he believed to be woolly mammoths. He assumed they were elephants at first, but then he got closer and noticed they had fur all over them. I mean, there's the alleged stories of possibly that there's still dinosaurs there. I mean, and supposedly everything inside the Hollow Earth is much bigger than it is out here. So, I mean, giant people. That blows my mind.
That could be where giants come from and where they went.
Totally. Yeah, totally.
I've also heard that's where the alien race, the tall whites, I think that's what they're called, these Nordic-looking beings. They're very tall. It's where they live. They're supposed to be benevolent, I think.
Yeah, I've heard the same, but I didn't know that they were supposedly from Inner Earth.
I don't know if that's where they're from, but I've read that that's where some are.
Oh, that's where they're hanging out for now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, the lizard people.
Of course, the lizard people, yeah.
Stinky lizards. I heard they stink.
To add to what Austin was saying, there have been woolly mammoths found frozen with fresh food in their stomachs. So, the idea was either some big disaster happened or they were someplace where they were just alive, came out to someplace where they couldn't live anymore and died pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they showed enough time where there was still identifiable food.
Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating because I've heard of that and I just thought, oh, that must be like a flash freeze like we couldn't even imagine and like just everything suddenly dead in the complete freeze that happens all of a sudden. But that's another possibility, right? That there's this like green, lush, thriving land somewhere, and just outside of that is like Antarctica, and they just like got chased out by a predator or something.
Right.
Yeah, they wandered in the wrong place, and it's like, oh man, don't know how to get back. That kind of thing happens all the time. So.
Well, and I think it was you, Austin, who mentioned the recent Tinfoil Hat episode that also did Hollow Earth. And I was just listening to that just to kind of get ready for the show and get my mind in the right place. And they mentioned something I'd never heard of before, which is the Diro. Had you guys heard of that?
I had not before listening to that episode.
So that... Did you go, by chance, look up any pictures of what they're supposed to look like?
No. I'm going to do that right now.
Yeah, you should check it out. They're like basically elephant people. They're like people, they look like little human beings, but with like some kind of a trunk that comes off of their face. So, and they're supposed to be kind of, I think, scary or demonic or not friendly. So, that's a new entity. That's a new cryptozoology entry in my book.
Oh my god! Wow.
That's I wonder creepy. If you hold it up, if we'll be able to see it.
Hang on. Let me see.
Okay.
You guys see that?
You did all right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
talk about the real elephant man.
Yeah.
See, but now I'm thinking about Ganesh, Lord Ganesh, right, in the Hindu religion.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, right. Epiphany.
Holy crap. That's totally an epiphany.
Well, especially if they're one of the religions saying, there's actual entities in this actual Hollow Earth, and that's part of their cosmology.
Right. Holy crap.
a lot of ancient cultures talk about the inner Earth and things of that. There's a lot, like we said that earlier, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm also thinking about as a sci-fi fan and a super nerd, I'm also thinking about Alien. Where they go onto that planet and find underground this big creature in the gun with the trunk and all of that, and I don't know, man, freaking me out.
The petrified engineer, I guess, or whatever it was.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's also I was looking at this Islamic scholar, and he was talking about the proof that there is a hollow earth according to the Quran, and so he was going into the different verses that talk about this and how there's ant creatures down there. And one of the things he mentioned that I thought was really interesting was that so I guess in the Quran it mentions two types of beings that live down there also, and I think what he said was Harkia and Barkia. I could be saying that wrong because he had an accent, but he said it was basically the male and the female aspect of this type of entity separated at some point. One went to the North Pole, one went to the South Pole. They're living underground in the hollow earth, and they are kind of like this, they understand everything about existence. They have access to all of the sort of information that exists, which is, again, similar to the sort of Akashic, astral field, if you have access to all of that at once. So there could be a hint there, but that they don't know about each other. So it's like this weird story about the male and masculine and feminine aspect sort of splitting at the North and South Pole.
Huh.
Interesting.
That's
Never
cool.
heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just stumbled upon it today, and then I wondered, I wonder how much that has to do with just the polarity that maybe was encoded in this religion, right? That there's like this magnetic pole of the earth, and it's kind of like masculine and feminine. But I don't know. But when you're talking about Alien just then, there's a lot of pop culture references to the hidden earth, or the hollow earth, or
the hidden earth. Oh, you just made a new one.
Yeah,
the
hidden earth. I like it. Yeah. So what else comes up for you guys when you think about the pop culture references?
first one.
They are probably telling us what's going on. It's like comedians. They tell you the truth, but they say it in a comedic kind of way, so you go, ha, 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 ha. Yeah. That's what I think.
So that you can handle it and process it easier.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the movie Iron Sky?
Yes.
Yes. Is that the Nazis?
Yes.
In the
Yeah. There's I don't know if you've seen the trailer for the sequel, but apparently the sequel comes out this year, and the sequel is all about the Hollow Earth.
Cool.
Ooh, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
I like the Iron Sky. It was very entertaining.
Well, Kong Skull Island, the one that came out, I guess, last year, that had a bit of a cloaked Hollow Earth reference. I mean, they were talking about Hollow Earth in the movie, but then when they get to Skull Island, they go pass through the storm, and then the sun is shining. So there's obviously a different realm. They crossed over. They don't say, "Oh, we went to Hollow Earth," but that was what they were saying that they were researching as part of the movie. When they get there, there's also another sun shining in this land that giant King Kong is.
Wow.
Huh. Wow.
That was a cool one.
Oh, see, and there's that reference to giant creatures as well.
Yep.
It's a silly one, but there's a book, and it's actually a trilogy or more by now, I think, but it's called Ember, The City of Ember. Have you guys heard of that?
Yeah.
Have you and your kids read that, Chrissy?
We watched the movie. I think it's on Amazon. But yeah, we watched the movie. Haven't read the book, but watched the movie.
Oh, I didn't even know it was a movie.
Yeah, there's a movie.
There's a movie. Oh, cool. So that's all about like them living underground in this society down there. It's basically like a breakaway civilization almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And the Journey to the Center of the Earth. That guy that wrote the book. I can't think of his name.
Jules Verne?
Yes. Yeah.
It's only in my head because of Tinfoil Hat. Otherwise, I would forget.
To me, those are big clues as well of what could possibly, I'll say that, could be going on.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys seen? It's a relatively new movie called Downsizing that has Matt Damon in it.
Yes, I've seen it.
I know it's not necessarily Hollow Earth, but I mean it kind of sort of is, I guess. I mean they shrink down and then they go to like a deep underground bunker to survive the coming climate change catastrophe.
Ooh. Yeah, the deep underground military bases are one kind of mainstream hint that we have that there is this underground space available to us, right? But did you guys have any other mainstream sort of like truths that sort of point to where it could be a reality?
When I was a kid, I'm dating myself here. When I was a kid, there was a show on called Land of the Lost. Right? Okay, so in this show, they got to this other realm. We don't know how. I don't know how Earth or what, but it was this family, right? So this family, they fall down a waterfall, and they end up in this land. with like these intelligent lizard people and a fallen civilization. They use crystal technology. They control the weather. There's like a proto-human type civilization also. They meet one of the young kids' name is Chaka. He doesn't speak English, but they teach him how to speak. Put dinosaurs around. It's crazy, and that stayed with me my entire life. So.
Will Ferrell did that movie, Land of the Lost, and Chaka is in that, and Chaka's a little pervert, but it's so funny. It's so funny. Yeah, y'all should watch it. If you like Will Ferrell, it's a funny movie.
Yeah.
Land of the Lost.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds awesome.
Watch the show, because it's a kid's show, and it's hokey as, you know.
I remember it, and the graphics are really 1990s or 1980s.
No, 1970s. They're horrible.
1970s? Yeah, okay. Wow, yeah.
Claymation backwards, and you can tell that there's a person just going whenever there's a dinosaur. Yeah. But like, watch it with a different set of eyes, and you'll be like, "What the hell am I?" You know, like, really time traveling reptilians. You know, it's a little weird.
Yeah.
It kind of holds.
Also, in Marvel Comics, there's a place called the Savage Land. They don't necessarily reference it as part of Hollow Earth, but it's a lush tropical area that sits in the middle of the Arctic. So
it's connected in that way, yeah.
And there's dinosaurs there.
We always hear about, like, whenever you're talking about deep underground military bases, I'm always hearing about, like, alien beings that are down there, and then the tunnel systems that just go for like ever allegedly underground. And that's always fascinating to me, because we do find tunnels that we sometimes had forgotten even existed, and then they go down and they find that there's human remnants down there, or like pieces of pottery or whatever, like writing or some indication that people were there before, and who knows how far that goes. And I know that once they find those entrances, we're often not allowed to go check them out for ourselves, so kind of off limits.
Austin Bergstrom Airport, which used to be an old military base, they have underground tunnels from the airport. Not sure where they go, but I do know that they're there. It's not a secret, So, but yeah.
There's also a report from supposedly an alleged United States Air Force colonel named Billy Fay Woodard that alleges to have gone to the inner Earth several times. And he says that he was stationed at Area 51. He said his first time he went to the inner Earth was when he was a child, and he was gone for 6 months. And he came back, and his parents knew about it. And once he got into the military, his dad wanted him stationed with him at Area 51. And through the whole learning process of the way things worked at Area 51, he learned that there, obviously we're told that there's deep underground tunnels and stuff under Area 51. According to his report, like the first 9 floors of Area 51 are made by us, and everything below that was already there. Like as they were creating the first 9 floors, they ran across these other floors, and they just kind of help maintain them now.
Wow. So then if that's true, it makes you wonder, like, how many places there are where there's 9 floors down, whole areas that were already built and just waiting.
Right. Yeah. And supposedly the people that run the tram systems in the tunnels, the military tunnels that supposedly go crisscross all across America, supposedly the people that run the trams in those tunnels are 13 to 14 feet tall.
Oh, that's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm always hearing about those tunnels, and it's kind of terrifying in a way, because you're like, what are they doing down there? What do they need to transport across all of that space and hide from all of us?
Right.
My dad used to tell me there's a Highway 317, and it runs parallel with I-35 between Waco and Belton. But anyways, and then that's in McGregor is where the SpaceX, one of their testing centers is at. Huh. And whenever they set off their rockets, I can hear it. Windows rattle. It's just a mess.
Oh, wow.
And they're like 30-something miles away from me. And you can see the light of, the ambient lighting up the sky. It's really cool, but annoying now.
Yeah.
but my dad used to tell me that there was an underground tunnel that ran from Fort Hood that ran parallel 317 all the way into what he said was McGregor. And he used to tell, I don't know if this is true, but he used to tell me that's where they would transport a lot of military machinery that they don't want us to know about. And and there's these big hills that you can see, across the horizon. He'd say, "That's where the tunnels are at. See those hills? That's the tunnels."
Yeah.
I say, "How crazy!"
Wow. Well, that reminds me, there was an episode of the Rogueways road trip that I did when I was down with Steve in Santa Cruz, and his friend Barry, who was letting us use that space to build out the back of the van, was talking about how, I can't remember exactly how it happened, but he just was describing that there was a time where all of a sudden a bunch of military suddenly came to the area. There was all of these booming and drilling and like sounds that were heard, and they were told that it was some sort of weapons testing, but it didn't really sync up right, and they think that they were building these tunnels underground, but you could never prove it or figure out where the entrance was. But it was really interesting because he had been there for so long, and he actually like lived through that.
Yeah.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah, I'm Fort Hood's just right there, so I can always tell when shit's about to hit the fan because they get to moving. The helicopters fly. It's really crazy and scary.
Yeah. Well, so one of the things that I had read that kind of indicates that there's more going on under the earth than we think is that there's a hidden ocean under the ground. Have you guys heard of that?
Yeah, I did hear that.
Yeah, it's like 300 miles down, allegedly.
Yeah.
So
and supposedly it's like, isn't it as big as all of the rest of our oceans combined?
That's just crazy. That's crazy that they could tell us that, like, we've got it figured out, and here's the center and the mantle and the crust or whatever, and they're this thick and whatever, and then all of a sudden they're like, actually, there's a huge ocean down there, and it's bigger than all of our oceans at all. Like, is it salt water? Is it fresh water? Like, can we go there? Like, I don't get it.
SpongeBob has an ocean under his ocean. So.
That's true.
Yeah, the Blue Lagoon and SpongeBob. He's got the Blue Lagoon.
They hang out on the beach under the ocean.
And they got clouds.
Yeah.
Well, another thing that makes me think of all of that is the sinkholes that are opening up all over the world.
That's scary. I mean, yeah, there was one just recently up in Ohio, which isn't that far from me, in the middle of just some neighborhood. Like, it destroyed like 2 or 3 yards, and I think a corner of a house collapsed into it.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah, because sometimes they'll open up and swallow like whole entire structures like you're describing, and like it could just be that we actually are like depleting the water underneath that, and so the ground is sort of collapsing and whatnot. But I don't know, I like to think that some of it could also be that the inner earth is sort of busting out into the outer earth.
Yeah, they're coming back at us for all the damage we're doing.
Right.
Yeah, the earth is geographically changing itself. I don't know. Yeah, could be.
So do you guys know of any of your favorite sort of supposed entrances to the inner earth or the hollow earth?
There's supposedly one about 2 hours from my house. I live in Kentucky, and supposedly Mammoth Cave in Kentucky is there's an entrance there. And what I know of it, I've been there several times. There are over 400 miles of mapped cave in Mammoth Cave, but they're still, like, they haven't even mapped the whole area yet. And actually, as part of the tour that the general public can go through, you come close to this area that they call it the bottomless pit, and there's literally, I mean, you shine flashlights down in there, you cannot see the bottom, and I mean, who knows how far it goes.
Wow.
And they've tried to find the bottom and they can't?
I don't know. I don't know if they have, but it went on the tour. They claimed that it's the bottomless pit. So I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. Did you say 400 miles?
Mm-hmm. There's over 400 miles of cave system in Mammoth Cave.
Wow.
That's mapped. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Yeah.
Now, a lot of the mapped cave system, it kind of zigzags back and forth, and a big part of it goes down and like kind of loops back around up to another section and stuff like that. But yeah, there's over 400 miles of mapped cave there.
Wow. And do they know anything about like how they were supposedly created, or do they talk about that?
No, I think it's just a whole completely natural. There's a lot of limestone around there, so I think it's it's
erosion.
Yeah. But to the best of my knowledge, from everything I could find about it, it seems like there is a lot of like land dispute going on when Mammoth Cave was first like officially become like a tourist attraction. Like, people own different plots of land, and because parts of the cave are underneath of it, they were all disputing on over who was going to get money from the tourism and stuff like that. And I think as part of the, well, we need to put an entrance here, or as part of the whole tourism thing, I think maybe it's possible that they just came up with the idea like, hey, let's just say there's a Hollow Earth entrance here. But who knows? I mean, who knows?
A selling point.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that so? Do you know if there's many people who get lost in there and are never found? Because that is one thing that's kind of associated with these tales of the Hollow Earth and Hidden Earth, like we mentioned earlier, that people never come back sometimes.
I really should have looked into that. I didn't.
No, that's fine. It's just a random idea I had. Because I know that there's like David Poliades, or however you say his name, with Missing 411, and I'm guessing he probably covers some of that. But it seems like there's a heightened ability to get lost in these, like, super... I almost said supernatural, but I don't mean supernatural. I mean like extra natural, very natural areas out there. So I don't know. That'd be interesting to look into. But what are some of the other entrances that you guys know of or like?
I don't know them by heart. I find it. Isn't there one in? I don't know my geography very well. Where the Buddhist monks are at, isn't there supposed to be an entrance over there somewhere?
Yeah, I think they're supposed to be. I shouldn't actually say because I'm not sure, but I know that in the Himalayas is where there's supposed to be the entrance to Agartha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's also allegedly an entrance under the Great Pyramid in Giza.
Ah.
Yes, I remember that.
There's also I remember hearing. In the jungle in South America, like a fairly recent tribe was discovered, like, within the last few decades or whatever. But they discovered this tribe, and once they were able to start communicating with them, this tribe alleged that they were the guardians of one of the entrances to the Hollow Earth. They said that there is they said that there's a cave that you could go into, and if you walked for 12 days, you'd come out to the other side.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah, did you already say that was down in like the Amazon rainforest?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And isn't it perhaps...
I was going to start another conspiracy.
Well,
it on purpose to hide it.
I could be wrong, but I think that there was also a pyramid structure associated with that one.
I think you might be right about that.
I think like that story that you're describing came out, and then shortly after they did that ground scanning radar or whatever from the plane, and they found something that could be a pyramid, like right where they had described the entrance being. Maybe, I think, unless I'm remembering it wrong. Do you remember anything about, like, so people could maybe go look into that, the names of any of that? I don't.
I wish I did.
Yeah.
I don't at all.
I bet people could find it if they just search for the things that we just said. But I know up in Washington, where I'm from, there was a set of caves that I always wanted to go to, and I never did because I always, by the time I got there, would be too busy and would have to like keep heading down the road. But it was called the Monkey Caves and the Lava Tubes. It might be describing two different cave systems, but those are also supposed to be really easy to get lost in, and some people maybe have never come back, and they're supposed to be really, really long, but I don't know a lot about them.
I've also heard Mount Shasta has an entrance.
Oh yeah, I've heard the same.
I was reading something last night that it started talking about the Bermuda Triangle, because it's what I think I was reading, the Smoky God, which is the tale of Olaf Jansen and his dad going to Hollow Earth, and I believe that it said they had the technology to open holes in the bottom of the ocean, and that they had to create a vortex, and that they had one in the Bermuda Triangle, they had one in the Dragon's Triangle, I think it's called, off the coast of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that was the only two that mentioned.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's another thing that I've heard stories of, these cave systems that are underwater and beings coming in and out of that, which maybe connects back to mermaids, like Chrissy was saying earlier.
Yeah.
What about you, Jeff? Have you got any of your favorite entrances that you've heard of?
I think my favorite one is just the whole North Pole entrance, because it's so absurd. Because everything they tell us, it's like, it's just frozen tundra. There's nothing up there. There's nothing to see up there. But yet we have these, accounts, but, real accounts. And I'm trying to think of the word. not verifiable, from a trustworthy source. Accounts from a trustworthy source. This is not exact. It's not exactly all frozen. With the whole Admiral Byrd thing and some of those interviews he did afterwards, when he got older, were recorded in like the 50s or whatever, talking about there being extremely large areas of land with untapped resources and all this. And that kind of blows my mind, because just like that thought alone, that there could be other lands and other realms, feeds my brain not only with the Hollow Earth stuff, but with all kinds of other things, breakaway civilizations. Maybe all this stuff that gets fed to us about being on our little blue planet, and all this is just to quarantine us, keep us away from the others.
Yeah. Well, that's
And
like. Sorry, go ahead.
It's a no-fly zone. That makes my little antennas go up, that you can't fly over it, and that the pictures, of the North and South Pole usually kind of get scrubbed out, so you don't see what's really there. So I think those are two definite signs that something is being hidden that we're not supposed to see.
There are allegedly 2 pictures, satellite photos, allegedly. One of them is from like the 1960s, and apparently it was of the Arctic Circle, and there was no cloud cover, and so you can see the hole plain as day. And there's supposedly another one that was taken from the International Space Station that shows the hole on the top.
Yeah.
Wow, I've never heard of that or seen those. We should post those up in the group when we're done here, because that's fascinating.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that idea too, that there would just be this almost like hollow pole. The pole that goes through the planet is actually like a hollow, tube, and you could go in on either end, and then there's this whole space inside. I don't understand how the physics of that would work. Like in my head, I can't understand like where the gravity or whatever it is that keeps us, attached to the ground. Like how would that like reverse down there? I don't get that, but.
Well, supposedly the gravity is all within, it doesn't come from the core, it's all within the crust or within the mantle. Like, so that it would work the opposite on the inside.
Wow. I wonder if we could build like a structure that mimicked this to kind of like proof of concept almost.
Have you seen the movie? I don't know. It makes me think of the movie Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
Where they're on the space station in outer space after he's gone through all the travel, and they're inside of it, and it's turning, and he looks up. I don't know, and it's just like, there's the grass, and there's the houses, and that's what I think of when he said that.
Oh, it's almost like Halo or something.
Mm-hmm. I just found the alleged photo from the International Space Station. If you can, I don't know if you can see this.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's crazy. I like that concept too. Well, Admiral Byrd's whole mission is riddled with problems, right? Because I think was it not that they were supposed to go down for something like 4 or 5 months, or maybe even 6 months, and they didn't make it even 6 weeks?
Yeah, they came back in a hurry, and I'm pretty sure they came back with only like half of the strength that they went down there with. Like quite a few people died in the process, from what I understand. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh no! I was going to go back to talking about the stuff that holds the gravity together and everything.
Yeah.
Everybody can go check out this guy named David LaPointe and a set of videos called the Primer Fields. Right. So what this guy did was he created bowl-shaped magnets and did a bunch of different experiments with them, and generating plasma and how the magnetic field hold the plasma, etc. And I think there's a lot of truth there. There's a lot of seeds of information there as to how a hollow body can work and still hold things on its surface and still have potentially other bodies orbiting it, locked in magnetic fields.
Wow.
What we call gravity fields are really just magnetic, possibly just magnetic fields. But check it out, the Primer Fields.
Primer Fields. And what was the guy's name?
David LaPointe.
David LaPointe. Writing it down so I can check into that.
Yeah.
Yep, I just made a note.
Everybody listening is making notes. Maybe we can post that in the group too for people to see. Yeah, that idea that he came back with half the people, he came back quicker than he was supposed to. They went straight to like a congressional hearing that was top secret. I don't even know if that's ever been declassified for us to poke around in what he said. I doubt it, right? Or do you guys know?
I don't think so. I think, to the best of my knowledge, he just talks about it in his alleged diary.
But so then I wonder, because then we start like talking about, Nazis, if there's this hidden Nazi base down there and they found some sort of like thermal, what's it called? Hydrothermal vent. That maybe they like went into with their submarines and they have this base down there or something, and maybe that's what attacked him. But I kind of think like that's a pretty easy cover story for something like much more fascinating.
Well, the Nazis actually when they were going down there, officially, like they had been told about the idea of the Hollow Earth, and apparently Hitler was all for it. Let's go try to find it. So
it really could be them. Then, like, if there's stories of all of these different possible advanced like civilizations down there, like how would they react to Nazis showing up?
Yeah.
They don't know what we know, or maybe they do. I don't.
Or maybe that's kind of the litmus test. Like, well, you figured it out, and you're like, in your esoteric vein, and you made it here, so now you get to like hang out with us in the inner Earth.
Maybe they're like a do no harm kind of race. Just yeah.
Hands off, yeah.
Yeah.
I also wonder, knowing now that we've all experienced heavy propaganda that we just get painted with constantly, it's like, how long has this been going on? Is it our entire history here? Like Nazis, obviously. You can't even say the word Nazi out in public. It's like, everybody's running and screaming. Admittedly, it should be, but what's the actual truth of this political group? You know what I mean? Like, all of these technological discoveries were made under a Nazi regime, right? The movie Hellboy was basically a documentary because they were into a lot of really interesting stuff, and it makes kind of a red flag go off that all of that is associated with this one group that we're all told to hate and told why to hate, because they hate everyone else. They want to kill you. They killed a number of people. They just, they're racist. They're everything. They're everything horrible, right? But yet, an entire country was behind the movement, and I just wonder really what the actual sort of.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. Like anytime there's a subject that's taboo, it makes me want to think more about it, because there's clearly something that somebody's trying to hide, and they were into all of that stuff. And also my question then is like, why wasn't anyone else into any of that stuff, or why is that all off limits too? Like theosophy and esoteric, whatever they're into, and almost like paranormal, stuff, and then this advanced technology supposedly, and we don't even hear about any of that anymore.
Yeah. That just sounds very suspect to me.
Yeah. Well, and then if they did conveniently escape to the inner Earth through these like hydrothermal vents, then I guess they just left the rest of us behind, if that's how it went.
They're gonna blow us up from the inside.
Yeah. Yeah, if they actually are evil, they're down there trying to plot the destruction of both sides of the Earth.
But and that's another thing that also fascinates me too. Is like we hear all these stories about inner Earth civilizations, yet we know nothing about not to use a word, but the politics of how these civilizations deal with each other. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe if they're anything like we are out here, the 8 nations live inside the Earth and they all hate each other. I don't know. Maybe they have trade agreements.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, it's nice to think that it's just this advanced breakaway civilization down there, but it could just as easily be this chaotic dystopia.
They may go through their cycles of that as well. I think that we go through cycles of having good moments, and then we have bad moments. And I think we're in just one of those time frames where everything's really sensitive right now.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe they're going through the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Or maybe it's like opposite, right? It's like opposite day, reverse world.
Yeah.
Right?
Like
Yeah.
they're in their golden age right now.
Yeah. And they can't possibly offend each other if they tried.
Right. Oh, wouldn't it be nice to be in a place like that? Well, that that is what I think about too when I think about Hollow Earth or Hidden Earth is now just a thing in my head, so I guess that's what we're going with.
Right on.
This idea that if there are breakaway civilizations in there and they sometimes probably want to come out maybe just to like check on us or see what the silly humans are doing or whatnot, and I wonder, is that what we think when we think we're seeing UFOs, or we are seeing UFOs, but we think there may be aliens, like are they maybe actually people from inside the Earth?
That's entirely possible.
Wow, yeah.
That's been one of my pet theories for a lot of years. There's all these aliens that come out and they breathe freaking air. That shouldn't happen if evolution has anything to do with anything, right? You evolve, maybe it's who knows, sodium hydroxide as an atmosphere. You can breathe air. That doesn't sound right. You should have like tentacles and slime and whatever you have that worked on your planet. That's what you should have. You shouldn't be walking out here looking like versions of people.
That's a fantastic point. And there's also this, like, if you think of the typical gray, the features that they have could be something that would develop in a low light atmosphere, like there would be underground, right? You get like larger eyes, and I don't know. Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about with breakaway civilizations?
Well, just to bring up Admiral Byrd again, he in his diary he alleges that when he lost control of his plane flying into the hole at the North Pole, and that it was taken over, and that a couple of aircrafts came up alongside of him, and they were controlling his plane, and he said that they were UFOs with swastikas on the side of them.
Wow.
And they told him, "You are in good hands. We will land you in 7 minutes." 7 minutes.
Yeah.
7 minutes. Well, so
7 minutes.
There's a little hint that if it was the Nazis, that maybe they were pretty friendly.
Maybe to him. No, I don't know. Yeah.
Interesting.
The other thing about Admiral Byrd, I don't know if y'all have heard this. I heard it through, and I tried to find the YouTube thing so I could refresh my memory on it to find the guy that said it, but I didn't. Anyways, I didn't get to do that. But he said that he apparently he was a very dedicated Admiral Byrd researcher, and he found that when Admiral Byrd was asked to come to Washington D.C. to discuss what he saw, allegedly they told him not to ever speak of it again, and some stuff happened. But then I guess he continued to speak about it, and so they actually stuck him in the crazy house where he ended up dying.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so he died in a mental. This is what this man said. He died in a mental institution to really never speak of what he saw again. So they kind of locked him away. Yeah.
Well, it's such a convenient dismissal to say, like, well, that person's crazy, lock him up, no matter what the topic or subject matter,
Yeah, I'll have to find that video and I'll share it with y'all when I do. But it was an interesting theory that he came up with about Admiral Byrd.
Yeah,
the story of Olaf Jansen and the Smoky God also said the same thing. After his dad died and he tried to tell everybody what happened and where he had been, they locked him up in a mental institution.
God. Yeah, and there's not much worse of a fate that you could suffer.
No.
So what are some of your guys' stories that you've heard of people like us, but who have ventured into the Hollow or Hidden Earth, or have you heard any of those?
I have not, and I would love to hear some of those.
Oh.
I've never heard of anything.
There's a fantastic, probably more than one episode of Mysterious Universe that just documents all of these stories of random people who have these experiences where they go underground and do all kinds of things. But Jeff, did you have any that you wanted to share?
Well, there was one that I heard from a person. They didn't get all the way to anything really interesting, but they were part of some kind of cave system near Los Angeles, so it was Southern California somewhere, and got chased out by a lizard person.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And then happened to, like see it like a day later, like chased out like this lizard creature thing was screaming like a goddamn velociraptor at him.
Wow.
Wow.
Never went back again, of course. So.
God. Yeah, because if you encountered a somewhat humanoid sort of thing, like maybe it'd be okay, especially if it was like the Nordics or the tall whites or whatever. But if you're gonna see a lizard person, like that's gonna strike terror into your soul,
That's how you get shit in your pants, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how we got out so fast.
I heard a similar story, but it was the people who were building some kind of a like tunnel. Maybe they were trying to tunnel through a mountain and build a train through it or something. I don't know, but for whatever reason they were tunneling through, and they encountered or they hit upon like another cave system. And when they were like opening it up, like apparently 2 lizard people came up, and there was like they had their own train tracks or something through there, and like lights and everything, and they you know, abandoned and ran away, and then when they came back it was like all gone or closed off or something.
Well, do y'all remember the was it the Chilean miners down in Chile that were digging up, and they apparently ran into some reptilians and
I didn't hear that.
I
You haven't heard that? Wow, I'll have to find that. Yeah, that was a big deal, I guess, in Mexico and on the Spanish channels. I remember hearing about it quite a bit.
Really?
Yeah, I'll find it. It was on
Crap.
Univision, I remember. It's Chilean miners. Yeah.
Huh.
I wonder if that had anything to do with that other incident where there were other Chilean miners. Weren't they trapped for like 30 days?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it makes me wonder now, was that could that have been like a cover story? It's like, well, we can't get you guys because we know what's down there. So
They're like, we're waiting for the lizard people to go away, and then we'll come get you.
Right.
You're the sacrifice we're making this month. So
Yeah.
sorry.
Like, only 2 of you got eaten, so it's not so bad. There's also the when you said something about California, it reminded me of that little island that's off the coast of California. That's crap. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? It's like a crazy paranormal place.
yeah, but I can't think of the name of it now.
Me either. I want to look it up, but my stuff's all turned off, so I can't. But this little tiny island that you could go to, and a lot of people go there for scuba diving. I think there's like a resort there. But like a lot of people mysteriously die. A lot of people have really strange experiences there. A lot of encounters with like what seems to be paranormal or UFO. But that's one of the things that is some people think might be going on, is that it's right on top of a underwater inner earth entrance.
Wow.
And so that's why they have all of these experiences there.
Yeah.
Is it Poveglia Island you're speaking of?
No. All right, I'm just gonna turn airplane mode off and look at it. It's my brother worked there for a little while too, and I was always waiting for him to like tell me some crazy story, but never got there. But
Never heard of it.
let me find it and I'll tell you. It is Catalina Island.
Oh.
So
I had
Catalina
it-
Island apparently has like just tons and tons of crazy stories that are associated with it. And I just always thought it's interesting that there's a place on Catalina Island called Avalon, which also has its own connotations of like
Yeah.
other realms and whatnot.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess there's a couple ways that you can maybe try and go interact with the inner earth, but none of those stories are very happy. There was one story I heard of where a guy allegedly met a woman on the surface here, but she kind of had strange skin, and she was just kind of weird. Her eyes were like maybe purple or something, and she told him that they fell in love and they wanted to get married, and she told him that she was from under the ground, and so he would have to like come down and live down there or something, but he was like gung-ho because she's got purple eyes, and so and so he went down, and he found the entrance that she had described, and he's supposed to bring these gifts, and he's carrying these gifts, and he goes down, and there's steps, like carved into the, like stairs carved into this tunnel, and he goes down, I think he said 600 steps before he like freaked out and turned around and came back. But I was just like, you went down 600 steps and you didn't just keep going, like why?
Right, yeah. Come on, dude, balls up, do it.
But I guess that's probably not a true story, because if you found somewhere where there was stairs going 600 feet down, like you'd tell some people and other people would know about it.
Yeah. Well, it's not a news story, but I'm sure you guys have heard of the Green Children of Woolpit.
Yeah, we did an episode of that on way back on Chat and Higher Side too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and good call, because they said that they came from underground, right?
Yeah, they said they lived in a place that had a constant dim sun, and that one of their goats, I think, wandered off, and they were following their goat trying to catch up with it, and it went into this cave, and they followed it through this tunnel, and they ended up out here.
And then they could never go back for some reason.
Yeah. Well, I think one of them, the brother died not long after they came out because they were so malnourished. And then they nursed the sister back to health, and then once she was able to learn how to communicate in English, she told them that's where they came from.
And then she lost her green skin after a while too.
Yeah.
They're both green, kind of greenish.
Weird. And I wonder if there's any like biological reason why your skin might be green if you're living underground.
Yeah.
Or with less light or a different type of light or
Gotta
whatever.
be right. And then we use vitamin. I mean, we use sunlight to synthesize vitamin D, so you don't get that. Does it come from another source, or maybe their skin is just different? Maybe they're not even human. You know what I mean? I mean, think about whatever the word. I was going to say genuses, but I don't know what the word is. Like, how many different species have lived on Earth before humans became humans? Maybe the reptilians were dinosaurs that went underground, and now we see the reptilians. I mean, we've had like so much time has gone by that we have no idea, and whoever they are, it's like our view of history keeps getting interrupted. So we have no idea how much actual time has passed or what has actually happened. We just get fed a narrative, and it's like, hey, here you go.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it is. Go carry on and go forward. Meanwhile, we have 10% of the actual truth.
Right. Yeah, it's a great point. We really don't know, and it is intentionally hidden from us. What else might be living down there, according to you guys?
Insect people.
The dodo bird.
The dodo bird! We found
Dodo
it! Oh my god, I
Yeah.
love it. What if every extinct species still exists down there? That makes me happy.
That'd be crazy.
Well, I was thinking it'd be really easy for Loch Ness, right? Loch Ness Monster could be like living underground in that 300-mile down ocean, and every once in a while it just comes up for like a lark.
Bigfoot, maybe he knows or they know where the secret entrances are at and interdimensional traveling.
That's a good call, because a lot of people, again, back to Pleiades, he talks about some of the kids that are found still alive, talk about how like a big bear carried them and took them to its home, and and it's always in a cave, and the idea is that that's probably not a bear, because bears don't really behave that way, and
Right.
don't talk and whatever, and so like it was probably a Bigfoot. So that's interesting.
Well, the insect people was a joke, but I think the Hopi did have a legend about ant people that lived underground.
Mm-hmm.
But supposedly called them ant people because they lived underground, not because they looked like ants. But then I heard another
Right, true.
weird story about man, I can't even remember what this was from, and that sucks. You'll probably never find it. Just Google whatever. But man, it was an interview with another native guy who was living on the reservation at the time, and that sort of typical image we have of Coco Pelli playing the flute, lines on his back, and he's like, that's an actual creature. That's a thing that lives underground, and it's dangerous, and it's a stylized version of this thing with spikes on his back and kind of a long poisonous stinger, on its
Oh, wow.
Wow, I wonder if that has any connection with those Diro, because that's similar to that tube or whatever could be.
Yeah, totally.
Totally.
It's like a porcupine Diro.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of... That's interesting, too, that both the Islamic and the Hopi talk about ant people, and I was confused when the guy was talking whether or not it was actually, like, ants, or whether it was more like what you were saying, where they're just calling them that because they're living underground.
Yeah.
Another, I guess you could call it a pop culture reference. I don't know if you guys have ever heard, there's an audio drama called Our Fair City, and it's all about it's basically a post-apocalyptic world where they've moved underground to avoid the climate or whatever, and through digging, they're constantly digging underground to expand the area that they have to live in, and they come across, but I think they started breeding a race of mole people. The mole people are kind of their slaves, and their enemies are ant people.
Huh.
Wow.
That's awesome. I wonder, it sounds like, I don't know, one of the ideas that came up is this Russian nesting doll idea, that there's like this surface of the earth, and then you can go under, and there's like another surface of the earth, and if you go under again, there's like another surface, and each one of them has its own like sun and light source, and it made me think of like an atomic structure, and I was like, it'd be very complicated, and it would get smaller and smaller as you went, but it's an interesting idea too of like how that structure could work.
That's crazy to think about, really.
Right.
I like the honeycomb thought too, the inner
Yeah.
earth honeycomb.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was always interesting too. And I like what Derek said earlier too about those. How did he say it? Being portals, interdimensional portals.
Oh, right. So, like, the idea that if you go down into the earth, that maybe at the center of it all is a portal, and that this is where, you know, beings could kind of come and go from our
Stargate.
plane.
Yeah,
Yes.
Stargate type stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and that made me think of the Nassim Haramein idea that at the center of every sort of body or structure is a black hole. And so at the center of the sun there would be one, at the center of the earth there would be one. And I do actually, now that I'm saying that, have a friend who astral traveled that I totally forgot. And he did say that at the center of every celestial body is a black hole, and that you can teleport in between them.
Oh,
and
wow.
that's what black holes are for. So according to him, that was his experience of it.
Wow.
Well, didn't the Mayans, I think, say that their gods came through the sun?
Huh.
I think.
Yeah.
Might be remembering that wrong, but it sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Well, that's interesting too. So, like, we'd have to have Derek's input on this, but his idea about, you know, rivers and portals. I wonder if that, you know, inner Earth ocean would have any connection to that portal too.
Great.
I love it. I like, we're just freewheeling random ideas, but let's talk about, because I guess people think that there's like a kind of like butting of heads between flat Earth and hollow Earth. What do you guys think about that?
I don't know. I used to think that if you took all the water out of Earth, it looked like a chewed up piece of bubble gum. So I don't know. I don't know if it's flat or not. I don't know. You know, I talk with these things with my daughter. You know, she's 10, and so we talk about all kinds of mythological type things. And I just want, and I just tell everybody that I come into contact with, I'm never going to go to outer space. I don't plan on it. I don't really plan on going to the inner Earth. I don't know what it looks like. I just know what I've been told, and I just ask certain questions. And so I want her to be able to do that as well, and just say, yeah, well, that's a possibility that the Earth is round with a core and lava inside of it and whatever. But there's these other possibilities as well, because there is evidence. I can see the evidence, and it looks good to me, but I don't know, and so I just take it as possibility. Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm as Greg Carlwood has said many times, I'm Earth shape agnostic. Like I see a lot of evidence. The flat Earth, it's like if you look into it to debunk it, that's how you end up wondering if it really is real, because it's really hard to debunk some of the questions that people are bringing up, and it made me realize that I have no idea what's going on.
Right.
And that probably none of us do. And so it's always interesting to me when people are really hardcore one way or the other. Like, no, it's definitely a sphere, or no, it's definitely flat. Because like you said, Christy, like, I'm not going to space. I've never been. So I might never know. And I'm totally okay with that. There's no reason that I have to know. I do like to be open-minded about it. And there is a lot of evidence. Honestly, there's more evidence for me that for flat than spherical, but I still don't know. It could be that it's like this massive sphere, like way bigger than we're led to believe, and that's why it seems kind of flat where we're able to look around us. I really don't know, but
Or we're flat. I've even heard that we're flat and we're like in a dome.
yes.
So, yeah, I don't know. Have you seen that movie, The Color of Magic? It's a fantasy movie, and it's very cute. It's very family friendly. But they start the movie off with this guy's like a space traveler, and it's kind of like on the back of a turtle there sits the elephants, and on top of the elephants there sits the world, and it's just really crazy. But it's like, yeah, it's kind of cool. We might be on the back of a turtle floating on the backs of elephants. I don't know.
that's what made me think of when somebody brought up the Russian nesting doll ideas, that all of these myths, you know, that it's like, oh, it's turtles all the way down. So I was kind of like, that kind of like correlates, right? Like it's the same all the way down no matter where you go.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jeff?
I think it could be both. I mean, because how flat is flat? You know what I mean? It's like I was saying earlier, we've only gone 8 miles down. You can have an entire civilization just 2 miles down and not know it. So even if it is some kind of artificial realm, which is where I'm leaning to, kind of feeling that lately. But again, like you said, Earth shape agnostic. I have no idea. I plan on going to space. I don't know how I'm getting there, but I'm going, man.
Yeah. Hey, astral travel makes it possible.
There you go.
If I figure that out, then fine. If I win the Powerball and get a ticket on one of Elon's spaceship runs, I'm going there too. So,
Yeah.
Um.
Any way you can.
Yeah, but I guess the point was that it doesn't. I don't think the ideas really exclude each other, because it could be a network of caves and giant open spaces and underground oceans and all this thing, and still it could go down 1,000 miles. Just 1,000 miles. It's nothing, really. It could be 1,000 miles deep, and there are untold numbers of civilizations just beneath it, and it'd still be a flat surface, theoretically. You know?
Right.
Worst,
There's room for the two to meet, for sure. Like, it doesn't have to be one or the other.
yeah, it really doesn't.
I had a thought once that supposedly our consciousness creates our reality, but what if we are so controlled, by the shadow government or whatever, that for some of us our perception is that the Earth is flat? What if for some of us our perception is the Earth is round, and for some of us the Earth is hollow?
I know. I love that. Yeah. And some people actually talk about that in relationship to, this idea that there are different realms, kind of like what we were talking about earlier with like different dimensions, but they're almost like kind of stacked with each other, right? And so your level of consciousness kind of determines your buoyancy in the scheme of things and where you're going to land. And so where we're at right now, is obviously this plane, and humans are here with this level of consciousness, but if you raise your consciousness or you kind of achieve enlightenment or whatever, then you're going to rise up to those more heavenly realms, or if you were somehow to get more dense and to lower your consciousness, then you would go down sort of like beneath the earth. Very similar to the ideas of like heaven and hell, except it's not based on like merit and punishment. It's based on your just where you're at, it's just kind of almost like karma.
Austin, I'm totally with that, and I'll go even a step further and say that imagine the power of the consciousnesses of 100,000 people or 100 million people, and their ability to create or not create. So, all of these ideas that we accept as reality now were injected into our consciousness at some point. Mm-hmm. So, like the flat Earth thing, for 1,500 years, we just assumed the Earth was flat. That's where it all came from. All of a sudden, the idea gets injected into the public consciousness that it's round. We found with these amazing telescopes, and that keeps getting bumped further and further, deeper and deeper into our consciousness. Is now with birth. Technology, things like television. We have the create these fantasy worlds, all about space and faraway galaxies and everything else. And maybe they exist now because 500 million people believe it. So,
right.
Right. I don't know.
Yeah, I really like that idea. It's like a choose your own adventure sort of thing too, right? Like you're not limited, and I think that's part of the reason why certain narratives or Nazi technology or Nazi philosophy, if it isn't evil, would be suppressed, is to keep people from being able to access those abilities and realms and stay kind of like trapped here almost. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, imagine the chaos there would be if we literally all had the same amount of power to create.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's why I'm always like, I'm not ready to achieve some sort of higher level of consciousness if I can't stop thinking of like, really awful things, or like when somebody says purple elephant, I'm going to visualize a purple elephant. Like my mind is not trained. I can't have that power.
Don't think of the color red.
Right. Exactly.
Right now.
Austin, before the show, you had brought up holographic holofractal, and I forget why, but you made a really good point with that.
According to that theory, and I'm not real up on the entirety of the theory, but allegedly it is a new scientific theory that supposedly unites all of the different scientific practices. And according to that theory, all celestial bodies are hollow because of the inherent energy grid that's running through everything.
That's fascinating. And so in that, do you know if that inside space would even be habitable, or if it would be like a vacuum sort of emptiness?
I think the last thing I heard, and this was from listening to the Higher Side chats, the guy he was talking to totally, Nassim, what's his name? Nassim. Yeah, he totally said that he believes that, according to this theory, that it should absolutely be habitable.
Yeah, that guy is so fascinating. Like,
yeah, he is, really.
He's amazing.
What's his name? What's his name again?
It's Nassim, and then Haramine is hard to
Okay.
spell. I spell it differently every time I spell it.
It's
But it's something like Heramein or something like that.
Or if you just look up holofractographic theory, that his name is mentioned in there. So
Yeah, that's interesting. And if I'm not mistaken, that theory also syncs up in a way with kind of simulation theory, right? Because the whole structure is sort of projected, but everything is contained within even the smallest part of the whole, and you can recreate it even if the rest is destroyed, and all of that kind of stuff.
that's too big for my mind almost.
It gets crazy, yeah.
I love it. That's my favorite thing ever is simulation theory.
It is pretty cool. Well, so what do you guys think drives so many people over so many years and so much time to investigate and think about whether or not the Earth could be hollow?
For me, it's just the fact that it's there's so many references to it all throughout every culture, all throughout history. I mean, there has to be a reason for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most people probably, if they get into it, probably influenced by pop culture of some sort, and that makes their antenna stick up, and so they decide to go find out some more about it. That's what got me going. It was coast to coast, and it was like the Hollow Earth. What's this? And so, but yeah, that's what kind of spun me into it, and I've just been in love with it ever since. Just the idea of this, like I said, heavenly place with benevolent beings, and it just, I don't know, fairy tale imagination for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of calls to you like, come here, it's a better place.
Yeah.
I keep waiting for an update from Brooks Agnew. He's apparently putting together a what do you call it? What is the word I'm looking for?
The panel?
No, they're actually going to the North Pole. Like
an
he's
expedition.
trying to an expedition. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, they're actually trying to put together an expedition to go try to find the entrance at the North Pole.
He was the one that I listened to on Coast to Coast that got me really into it. And it was his interview.
Well, that would also be he could join up with the Flat Earthers to help fund that because they want to go and see kind of what's out there.
Look for the ice wall.
Look for the ice wall and kind of see like if there actually is that much space in between. If it would, the flat Earth map from tip to tip of like Africa and South America and stuff, or something like that. Or if there's hidden parts of the ocean that aren't accounted for, or those types of things.
I think it's entirely possible that our Earth is actually bigger than what we think it is. I totally buy into that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. Oh, I hope that he does that expedition and that we get to see what happens. My idea is that if they actually get enough money and resources to do it, that they'll be immediately sort of tabbed or whatever you want to call it, and kind of forced to produce content that is just dismissive and not realistic, just to dissuade people from looking further.
Just makes a really cool story.
Yeah. Well, I hope he gets to do it without any interference. That would be really excellent. And I'm told that you actually are technically allowed to go to Antarctica, but I don't believe it because there's no flights there, and there's like one place that goes out of New Zealand or something, and it's like, and that's it. So you can't fly there on your own. So I don't believe it. I don't think you can. I think they say that you can, but it's like it's like those states that say like, yeah, we don't restrict the Second Amendment, but we just won't give any permits to anyone to own a gun.
Right.
We have the process. You can apply. We just won't approve anyone.
Right.
The illusion of your freedom.
Right. Yeah. What do you think, Jeff? What do you think keeps people kind of looking into Hollow Earth and dreaming about it?
I think we all want to find something cool. Maybe it might just be that simple. You're a kid sometimes and you explore around your house. You're like, oh, look, I found this penny under the sofa. Like you found something. All of a sudden there's a thrill. And that thrill never stops. And I think we just get older and we get fancier toys. Instead of trying to find something behind the sofa, now we're trying to find, something in the jungle or something in another land or another realm. It's like human nature. We can't not. We've never just been settled. I think the mysterious they try to control us and corral us, but I think maybe the whole reason for humans existing is that we go and we discover and we create and we make and we refine and we just continue to do this over and over again in history. So it's never going to stop. I'm sure people have already found it. It's just, I think, a matter of the powers that be controlling the information. I think if it became public, all of a sudden now that's part of our world too. It's like, oh, you can't just go to the whatever. You can't just sail the 7 seas. You can go to inner Earth and do whatever. Who knows? But I think it's all about control. Stuff is really, probably not mapped out to the degree that we would want or think, but I think it's already out there. But we're never going to stop looking for it.
There's not going to be like Google directions to how to get around in there.
I mean, it's probably the same reason we want to go to space or want to go to the bottom of the ocean. It's like there's stuff to see. There's always things to find. They're never going to stop looking for it. So.
Yeah, it's kind of like that spirit of adventure that keeps people searching for to solve the mysteries and find out what's really going on.
I think it's built in. Even if you're like an evolutionist, you're like, oh, you're always going to go try to find better grazing lands, or better hunting grounds, or whatever. Yeah, it's in there. It's never going to. Millions of years of evolution couldn't breed it out. So you can feed us and give us TV and all that, and that'll stop a percentage of the population. It won't stop us all.
That's true.
It's ingrained in us to explore. Yeah.
Well, so what's your guys' final stance? Like, what do you think is actually going on down there for sure? Where are you going to plant your flag?
I totally buy it. I totally think the Earth's hollow. I mean, there's a lot of things that point to that direction. And you hear about people finding insects above like the 70th parallel, like and warmer climates. The closer you get to the North Pole, and it should, or the warmer temperatures, the closer you get to the North Pole, which absolutely should not be. I totally buy it. I think it's hollow.
I think it's hollow too. I think there's stuff going on down there. I think it's been going on down there. I think the technology is so far advanced. I hear it's 50 years plus than what we're being told it is. So yeah, I totally think there's stuff happening. I don't know what, but yeah, I think something's going on for sure.
Yeah, I'm with everybody else on that. Totally. Gotta be. It can't not be.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I don't know for sure that it's like hollow. Maybe it's that honeycomb thing. Maybe it's like just extensive caves and large, huge like underground spaces, and maybe even the size of like continents or something. But I definitely know that there's space down there, and but I also lean towards that sort of dimensional aspect or that sort of spiritual and like consciousness thing. But I think it could be both as well. Like I think there could be space under there, and we could have these sort of consciousness levels going on.
Absolutely.
If you think about it, something as simple as like insects can see in ultraviolet, and we can't. Still, I don't know what their world looks like.
Yeah.
What does the world look like to a fly or a butterfly? No clue.
Right.
Never have a clue unless I can also see in ultraviolet. So with just a simple frequency change, or just a light we're able to experience just in our eyeballs, it could totally change the world. So I can't even fathom what an underground civilization or a breakaway civilization, or who knows what their world looks like, and it would be like crossing into another dimension, because all of a sudden you can experience things that you're unable to experience here.
That's an absolutely great point. You're absolutely right. Well, what are your guys' final words of wisdom, or just your final thoughts on the whole subject?
I'm going to keep looking. I'm going to keep my eyes open. I of course. I'm always going to be fascinated with the Hollow Earth, and anything new I can find out about it, I'm going to keep looking.
Awesome.
Yeah, same here. I dig the story. If something pops up about the Hollow Earth, I'll probably give it a good listen to. And I say be open-minded. Don't be so open-minded your brain falls out, but be open-minded.
There you go.
I'll say something completely unrelated. Everything you've ever learned has been a lie.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just assume everyone has lied to you your entire life. But now go find it.
Unlearn what we've learned.
Yeah. And now go find what? What were you going to say?
I said, now go find the truth. Now go find reality.
Oh, absolutely.
Assume you've been lied to, and now go figure it out.
I love it. And it's in fact like the more I go, because I've always said question everything, but then I always find things where I'm like, with the flat earth thing, I was like, whatever, that's bullshit, you guys are dumb. And then I looked into it and I was like, geez, like, no, really, you should question everything, like everything. There's nothing that shouldn't be questioned.
Yeah, it was exactly my experience. I was like, oh, this is bullshit. I was a space nerd, you know?
Yeah.
Like, come on. And the more, it didn't even take that long. I probably a couple hours. I'm like, hey, wait a minute, you guys got a point. So,
See, and I'm still a space nerd. I just think space is something totally different than what I thought it was before.
and I think NASA has some explaining to do for sure.
Oh,
A lot.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a flat Earth episode soon.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you guys want to add to Hollow Earth?
I'm good.
All right. Fellow travelers of the path, it is a beautiful thing. This has been your electric, analog, concentric dose of wisdom according to Jeff Darkside Marshall. Jeff, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
And according to Austin, Audio Oblivious Beach. Austin, thank you for being here today.
It was an honor. Thanks for having me.
And according to Chrissy Entrepreneurial Perez, Chrissy, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
It's been awesome to have you all. So you can easily look up in the sky and see the clouds, the sun, the moon, and the stars, and you can start to try to grasp what is actually going on there, but the inner Earth is not so accessible, or is it? There are myriad alleged entrances sprinkled all around every landmass that exists, and even some underwater entrances. So should we mount an expedition and go check it out? Probably not. Just like there are reasons why every culture talks about what's down there, there are also reasons why we associate the underworld with danger. Many a person has been lost, never to be found again after venturing into a cave system. But we can keep our imaginations tuned in to the possibilities and our delight burning at the thought of meeting a breakaway civilization's envoy or a lost world's entity, hopefully in the full light of day and from a safe distance. Until you find your own Hollow Earth entrance and entities, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first.
One lesson, so do your homework. Make your dome hurt while up on earth. My bones are blessed from holy dirt. Vibes manifested to words that told me search for verbs and adjectives to describe birth. Worth more than one can speak, while the tongue feeds a weak, a sour taste in your mouth, bittersweet. Words can also kill you when you sleep. Mind condition, low frequencies while the subconscious mind listens. I can tell a vision filled with lies, disguised as truth, and spread it like the word to the youth. Watch the tube. A place where the god gets booed is sorcery. To recreate a god forgery does more than meets the eye. Not too many know. Just hear me flow like the eye of Horus Penio. Yeah, not ready to leave until we believe we're free to go. You hear me, yo?
Sculpted from the ether, the material will eat ya. Stuck on this plane, lanes use jet fuel to greet ya. The dimensional three ain't meeting me on top of the fourth. Didn't climb Jacob's ladder to squab with a sword. Forged with ink drizzle, branch down. Try quiet your lamps now. Ascension past the matter, let they slam out they damn mouths. We ain't on land now, but they over understand. Sacrificing wisdom, hoarding dumber kosher wicked hands. Putting faith in worthless worship of the mortals. Artificial portals, mass ingestion of the black goo. Bioengineered morsels, conversing with machine elves. Bypassing maggots, they stuck on Android screens. Now I'm scrolling emerald tablets. Moloch living lavish, off the backs of the savage. Them clasp hands at the Sabbath. Smack of energy damage, they done twisted the tongues. With nanotech in the lungs, the awakening's begun. All they really can do is fucking run.